Alright everybody, we're going to have another look at my red-clawed crab tank today. I'm going to try to ease in right now real quickly while he's still out and about. But one of the crabs is right up on the rocks. You can also see that crab down in the bottom right hand corner is kind of active at the moment. So it's not unusual for me to come in here and see the crabs up on top of the moss or up on top of the rocks, and of course me walking in the room is generally what frightens them, scares them down into hiding. So here we got this little one in the right hand corner. He's getting a little more bold and coming back up out of the water. They spend an awful lot of time out of the water, and they spend an awful lot of time picking through, if you see that one in the back, it's picking through the algae, the moss. And they're just really fascinating little creatures. And I don't spend a ton of time sitting in front of the tank watching it just because the weather's been getting nicer and I've been out and about more. But it's rainy today, and that's usually good news for my viewers because I usually tend to while the time away by working here in the fish room. So what we're doing today is changing this tank around quite a bit if we'll ever focus on it. Just not sure what to focus on. I've got some Endler's guppies in here, and I've got a female guppy that is dropping babies. So I decided what I'm going to do to deal with the problem of having a bunch of baby guppies is I'm going to introduce a somewhat larger fish into this tank in hopes that the little baby guppy fry will become food. I know that's probably not an option that a lot of people might like, but it's what I've decided I'm going to do with this tank. But it presents me with some problems. Number one, I'm very limited on what fish I can keep in this tank simply because it's brackish water. These crabs are euryhaline, just like these little Endler's guppies. So that limits me to fish that can live in brackish water, namely live bearers. Now, most of your live bearers are going to get a little too big for the amount of water I have in this tank. I mean, at best, we're talking about, I don't know, 5 gallons of water maybe, and with the amount of rocks and cave structure, it really just would not be much room for a fish to swim around. It's shallow enough that I don't think oxygenation would be much of an issue, but I do have problems keeping this filter running at an acceptable flow rate. I don't get much water circulation or even real, turnover rate in this tank at all. So I've got all these issues I need to solve, and so I went over to the big chain pet store this morning and I purchased a fish. Actually, I purchased 2 fish, but that other one's going to be for a different video. And what I decided to do as I was driving home, I thought, well, if I change this, then that'll change that, and then I'll have to do this, and then I'll do that. And so I've been thinking, also a good sign for my viewers, something usually good comes of that. So I am actually going to get to work started on rearranging this tank a little bit. I'm not going to tell you what the changes are going to be, but they are going to be significant. So take a last look at my red-clawed crab tank as you know it. And in a little bit, we're going to get to see a completely revamped tank that has a lot more swimming around room. And I'll just leave it at that, and we'll see where it goes. Alright, so this is where we went. Now, I've been waiting for a couple of hours for the water to clear up. All of the dirt that was in there from the moss clumps is in the tank, and just the stuff that's broken down, it actually really stunk. It smelled like if you've ever had a flower pot that's been overwatered and the roots have that really nasty sort of boggy smell. That comes from low oxygenation and very acidic conditions. So the tank was pretty funky, and I definitely was not getting enough circulation or water movement around the tank. So we changed it up a lot. I went through so many different trial and error things. This isn't really what I envisioned when I thought I was going to do something, but so far I'm happy with it. It's probably going to get a few more changes, but I wanted to stop messing around with it. I wanted the water to clear up so I can get a pretty good idea of what I'm looking at before we go on. So we definitely have at least 12 crabs still alive. I've seen 12 in there at once since I've got it set up like this and the water's cleared up a little bit. I have seen 4 ghost shrimp at once, so I know we still at least have 4 ghost shrimp in here. And I have seen about a bajillion little baby guppy fry. So I don't know if it was the stress of all of the tank rearranging or what, but I've got a lot of fry in there now. I do have a fish we're going to be putting in there in a few minutes. We have 2 of them actually. I had gotten 2. One was going to go in another tank, but since I've actually added as much space and volume of water as I've added, I'm actually going to put them both in this tank because I really like them. I think they're going to be pretty in here, but we'll save that for a few minutes down the road here. So let's talk about what we actually did. The first thing I did was I got in and I lifted up the filter. Well, I took it out initially and completely cleaned it out. There was a crab inside of it. Not really sure how he squeezed in through the hole. Excuse me. He might have gone in when he was small and then got stuck in there after he sloughed, because there was an exoskeleton in there as well. So I think that might have happened. He went in as a very small crab, sloughed, and then could not get back out, and was actually living inside that filter. So we pulled that out, we cleaned it all up, we got the water flowing through it again. You can see I got a nice high volume, high turnover rate there. I set it up on a big rock, so it's up off the bottom now, and there's a lot of swimming around underneath of it room, and it actually gives me a higher surface level. If I kept it where it was and put this much water in the tank, there basically wouldn't be any waterfall at all. It would just be coming straight out the top with a little disc of artificial land above it. So this still gives me the waterfall, plus it gives me a little bit more swimming around room underneath. This piece of moss here was sort of attached to the side, but very loosely, and you can see the crabs have already pulled it down. They're already feasting away in it. We've got 3 of them right here. I do have a piece of wood back there. The crabs have really been enjoying that. What else have we done? I tried to give as much space as possible while creating as much elevation as possible. I didn't want to stack rocks up because that steals water volume and it steals real estate. It steals space that your animals can swim around in. So I did my best to sort of loosely stack rocks to get it to where we have a lot of volume to move around. We've got a hang on the back filter that's set up for a 40-gallon tank. I do have some plants going on in there that are kind of hard to see from the front, but I've also got a flower pot in there with some bark. So it's shredded hardwood mulch actually, so the crabs will be able to dig and burrow without getting a lot of mud in the tank. So that was a lesson learned. I put my piece of wood sideways, so I'm using that as sort of a support to see if we can get some Java fern growing on it. I used a little bit of the moss that was already in there, but I used some other moss to just sort of put around here and there. Again, I know it's hard to see, but that is just some plants from out in my yard. I'm not even sure what it is. It's some kind of succulent ground cover, and it should be pretty easy to grow. And then of course I've got the rocks set up. So I've got myself a waterfall on this end, and this is an adjustable filter, so I can actually adjust the flow of this waterfall all the way up to full volume like that. Or down as low as that. So I keep it set, excuse me, I keep it set just a little above the lowest possible setting. If you'll notice that rock sticking up and you see the moss around that, that is actually hiding another planter that has some moss growing in it. It's kind of hard to tell, but if you can see that little bit of green tuft sticking up. So that's another container that another crab could make a burrow in. I've got some moss here that they can burrow under, and then of course there's a lot of space underneath of this piece of wood. And then of course I've got lots and lots of moss all over the place for them to be able to get in it and eat and burrow and do their little crabby thing. So I've already seen them out and fighting amongst themselves. We've got 4 of them over here right now. We've got 1 down on the bottom, 2 right there, and then there's another one around the back side, and there might even be more around there. It's hard to say. So I'm going to go over and get the fish. And this is brackish water. I've had a lot of people ask me over the years about acclimating fish from freshwater to brackish water. So it's now about 8 o'clock in the evening, and I got the fish about 1 o'clock this afternoon. So they've been over in a bucket all day in my tap water, which is well water, so it is fresh water, but has, you know, no chlorine, no treatment, nothing in it. And I've just had a little internal filter in there just to keep the water circulating, to keep it well oxygenated for them. So they've been in fresh water all day, and now we're going to come over here and I'm going to show you how I acclimate them into this brackish water here. Alright, and here they are. I got a blue wag platy and a velvet wag swordtail male. So they were beautiful in the tank at the store. Let's see what they look like after they've been acclimated to this tank. There you go. That's how long it takes to acclimate fish to brackish water. And you can see all of the dust and silt and everything has kicked up. So I will leave that there, and we'll just call that a teaser. We'll wait until the fish have calmed down, and we'll wait until the water's settled down overnight. We'll shoot some more video of this and do an update here in the next day or so, and we'll get to see exactly what those fish look like in the tank. I don't think we're going to get very much of a look now. I don't even see them, so they're actually probably going and hiding in the rocks somewhere. But that is how long it takes to acclimate fish to brackish water. That was fresh water in the cup, and I have very soft water to boot. So they went from very soft, fairly acidic water, or around neutral, and we just put them in low-end brackish. This tank is 1.005, and the pH is around 8 usually. I haven't measured the pH anytime recently. But euryhaline fish are able to adapt to rapid changes in salinity. So if I was doing that right into a marine tank, I would imagine that the same result would happen, as we wouldn't have any real acclimation time necessary at all. But with this being low-end brackish, there's no concern whatsoever. If you have a fish that you want to take from one of your freshwater tanks and move it to a brackish tank, the idea that you have to do it in very small increments or raise your specific gravity, you know, 0.01% each week or something like that, is just not necessary. You can put your fish pretty much directly into your brackish water and everything's fine. So stay tuned, make sure you're subscribed, you don't want to miss anything, and you definitely don't want to miss what this, what was it, a velvet wag platy and a blue wag platy, I'm sorry, a velvet wag swordtail and a blue wag platy. So the swordtail is absolutely gorgeous. It's a really dark red with a black swordtail, and then of course the blue wag platy speaks for itself. So as I said, make sure you're subscribed, you won't miss any of that. Don't forget, this is my red clawed crab tank. Thanks again for watching. I hope you liked the new look. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you real soon in the next one.